I guess one of the judges is in the waiting room. Can you let him in? Yeah, okay, he's here.
Yeah.
Shambhavi, if all participants are here and both the judges are here, you can start now.
Yeah, we're still waiting for one judge.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Both judges are here. Yeah. Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, we start.
Welcome to Policy Pandemonium Round 2. Morning, judges and all the participants. I am Disha Malara.
And I am Shamavi Sawant, event leads for Policy Pandemonium. This round focuses on policy evaluation to check the effects of the policies and to evaluate the policies in terms of their necessity, effectiveness, validation to improve the planning and implementation process.
We'd like to introduce to you our judges for this round. We have Mr. Dipanshu Agrawal, who is a commerce graduate from Shriram College of Commerce and describes himself as a bibliophile by interest, who's forever student of politics, political economy, governance, and public policy. He has worked as a political consultant and as an assistant to Honorable Lok Sabha MP Pravesh Sahib Singhji. He's currently working as a policy intern at Observer Research Foundation under Mr. Kanchan Gupta, who is ORF's Distinguished Fellow. He is set to pursue a Master of Public Policy at University of Chicago in 2021.
Our second judge for today, Mr. Adityan Kilikattu Anil, is a development communication researcher, policy analyst, political consultant, and a part-time journalist. Mr. Adityan is also an incoming candidate at the Institute of Development Studies, Sussex. In his very recent experience, he has worked with the UNICEF State Office, Gujarat, and MICA Ahmedabad as a researcher on a state-level mission aimed to strengthen social and behavioral change communication of the government of Gujarat through advocacy and strategy intervention. Presently, he is working on the subject matters related to the 2021 Kerala Assembly elections.
Before we start our event, we'd like to give a huge shout out to our amazing sponsors, our event partner for Policy Pandemonium, EduSat, our title sponsor, Farm Easy, our media partner, Colors Infinity, our development partner, KRK Buildtech Private Limited, our event partner, Job Square, our gifting partner for Policy.
I think Disha is having some network issues. I'll continue. Our gifting partner for Policy Pandemonium, Ilana Accessories. Our gifting partner for Autonomics, Hamporio. Our main partner, Freshway Foods. A few instructions for the online code of conduct. Participants are requested to log in only in the given format. The ministry name dash the contingent code. Participants will have to keep their videos on throughout the event compulsorily. Participant annotation is prohibited when the screen is being shared. All participants are supposed to remain on mute at all times of the event unless the moderator asks you to speak. Non-compliance to these guidelines will lead to the entire contingent being penalized.
Instructions for the round. Can you hear me, Shambi?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. There are 9 ministries in this round, each represented by one team. Each ministry represented by 2 participants will be given 1.5 minutes to introduce their policy. After 1 minute, there will be a reminder given in the chat box, and after 1.5 minutes, a verbal reminder will be given by the tech volunteer. Once presented, the floor will be open for a 6-minute question-answer session. The participants are required to use the raise hand feature to ask the questions. Participants must raise their hands only and only after the ministry is done presenting. Judges will choose 3 ministries that can ask questions. Participants have to first tell their contingent code, followed by the question. Each participant will have 1 minute to ask the question, and the presenting team will have 1 minute to answer. If judges find the question impractical, negative marking will be allocated. Are there any doubts regarding the instructions? Also, if anyone wants to just get familiarized with the raise hand feature, you could try it right now. Judges, do you have any doubts regarding the instructions?
Nope.
No. We are good to go.
Okay, so let's begin. First, we have the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, who is entrusted with formulating and implementing the foreign trade policy, state trading, export promotion measures, and development and regulation of certain export-oriented industries and commodities.
Yeah, just before we start, we just wanted to make sure if we are audible.
Yes,
Yes,
we can hear you.
Yeah.
All
Okay, sure.
So if everyone else is on mute, we'll begin now.
Yes.
All right, thanks. So our industrial policy went from taking its initial steps with the help of international players to today becoming an Atmanirbhar industrial policy. The NIP introduced us Indians to the global community of progress, and as of today, it primarily aims at making India a cornerstone of profitable manufacturing hub. Now it aims at 6 thematic focus groups, that's manufacturing and MSMEs, tech, innovation, ease of doing business, infrastructure, investments, trade and fiscal policies, and skills and employability. Now, with a dynamic and holistic threshold and approach, the NIP has contributed to the positive business conditions in the country. So far, the manufacturing component of the IIP stood at 129.8 as of FY20. In a pattern like this, the NIP has the potential to drive the Indian manufacturing sector up to $1 trillion by the year 2025. Now, with an impetus on developing industrial corridors, the government aims to ensure the holistic development of the nation with the NIP 2018.
So we have designed the NIP in such a way so as to be gradualist in nature. The basic rationale being that Big Bang models, especially in pervasive sectors, have never been fruitful, as the infrastructure of a developing country like ours simply does not support the same. We have evolved with the times, making NIP one of the most dynamic policies set out, which has made it an economic turning point in Indian economic history since 1991. Being a coherent framework, the NIP's prime objective is providing an engine of growth that has not only paved ways for development, but
Sorry
also...
to interrupt, but your time is up.
Oh, can I just continue for like 10 seconds?
No,
Just wrap it up in 10 seconds.
Okay, for development, but also provided for interlinkages between firms rather than sectors to promote the spirit of Atmanirbharta, Skill India, Digital India, and moreover, continues to be the backbone of this country in such uncertain times, truly proving to the theme of creation and chaos. Thank you.
Participants can raise their hands for the question answer session. We like Mr. Dipanshu to ask the questions, to choose which ministries to ask.
Sure, let me go for... Okay. One question can be asked by Cisco, another can be asked by Hitachi, and the other by Lenovo.
Cisco, go ahead.
Hitachi, and Lenovo.
All right. Good afternoon, ministries. So my question to you being, with the introduction of this policy, right, our own Indian traditional roots have lost their importance. Also, keeping in mind the very fact that small scale industries have also been affected in a negative way with the introduction of your policy. So in this entire aspect, the ministry hasn't addressed this issue at all. So my question is, what does the ministry have to say in this aspect, and how does the ministry help choose to help the small scale industries and in order to help our own traditional roots as well?
All right.
Thanks.
Question.
Okay, I think Priyanshi can go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just give you the introduction and Ahan will contribute to it further. All right, so you talk about, small scale industries, but the fact that small scale industries have gotten a gradual growth or a launchpad for themselves because of the NIP that was started in 1991, which gave the LPG model to the country. It introduced us to a new era of development and progress. And as of today, when you talk about it not being in touch with our traditional roots, that's exactly where you become wrong in deciphering the policy, because as I said, today we've come to a point where we are an Atmanirbhar industrial policy. That is, we are self-sustaining in a way where we are driving in FDI for our local players, and we are constructing it in a way where the small scale industries get a backbone to stand for themselves as of Ministry of MSMEs, because of what the industrial policy is contributing to the privatization of public sector in a way where you contribute to the mixed economy while not going against the traditional roots, while also bringing in the progress and not being behind the other first world countries. Over to you, Ahan.
Yeah, to add to that, as Priyanshi has said, the NIP has helped majorly in the promotion of MSMEs and in fact paved the way for the MSMED Act 2006 and the promotion of the Ministry of MSMEs in 2007. Moreover, I think MSMEs are the backbone of the nation thanks to the policies which have been carved according to the National Industrial Policy. And the fact that you talk about how MSMEs are suffering, we agree to that, as a result of which, in discussion with the Finance Minister as well as the Prime Minister, we have rolled out the stimulus package, to which around 6 lakh crores have been allotted in collaboration with the Ministry of MSMEs for MSME upliftment, which involves relaxation in statutory and compliance matters, 20,000 crore subordinate debt, 50,000 crore infusion, along with 2,500.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we only have 1 minute for question and answers per ministry. So
No
all
problem.
participants
Yeah,
just
so we go ahead with
remember that.
Hitachi. Hitachi, for
Yeah,
your
so the
question.
next question.
So yeah, very good morning to the respected judges and all the participants present in the panel. And my question for the contingent is that basically there has been a new policy added in the year 2020 regarding the new e-commerce strategy. So what are your point of views for the e-commerce strategy, like for the on the policy, and what do you think that how it would work in the current situation of the pandemic?
Okay. Ahan, would you begin or should I?
You can begin.
All right. Okay. That's a very great question. Thank you, Itaji. So, when you talk about the e-commerce industry in a way, when we associate it with the new industrial policy, again, as we said, we are modifying it with the current status quo of the country. As of now, when we are struck with the pandemic, we have to focus about self-sufficiency of a lot of companies which are declaring their bankruptcy or going on the verge of probably falling down in their profits and businesses. So what new industrial policy does over here is they curate the policies in a way where we are inclusive of anything that has been presented new by the country, startups and the small scale industries, so that the overall holistic view, or taking e-commerce, because as of now the NIP is also moving more towards artificial intelligence and also towards robotics and Internet of Things. So channel, and we have also allotted a part of like 24.2% of budget from the new industrial policy in innovation for technology and AI in e-commerce. So this is something that the policy is approaching towards, is considering within itself, so that it gives it a good base or a construct to go ahead and be in a profitable way of like a point of view of it. So Ahan, would you like to add up?
Yeah, to add to that, I think Priyanshi has covered almost all the points we had to make. But along with that, the government, the NIP, we have also identified some sunrise sectors, especially in the e-commerce industry, to promote our policy, especially what we see rising and which we want to promote, and have also relaxed FDI restrictions for especially financial services, which are e-commerce financial services, which are widely prevalent now. So yes.
And yeah, to end it, so again, this policy has one major aspect, that is promoting investments. So they're coordinating complementary investments when there are significant economies of scale and capital market imperfection. So this way, the e-commerce will have a great focus in the NIP 2018, so that it progresses further on, and there's absolutely nothing that we fall short of.
Okay, we have Lenovo to ask the question.
Okay, my question is regarding FDI, right? FDI is a major part of your abstract, and while you were answering the Ministry of External Affairs, you stated that FDI will play a huge role in your policy. Now, recently, due to the pandemic, to avoid hostile takeovers over companies, the government has stopped FDIs for a really long time, for at least 2 to 3 years. So won't your policy be redundant because we're removing the FDI part of it?
Thank you for your question, Ministry. So I don't think the policy would be redundant at all. We are promoting self-reliance through Atmanirbharta in our policy. That is the same reason why we have been providing economic packages since the start of the pandemic for the MSMEs. And so in a way, we are also promoting the LPG growth of model. At the same time, we are also encouraging privatization, which will further from our own private players within the country, like for example, Reliance, which will help in further just making us more self-reliant. Priyanshi, do you have anything to add to that? Is Priyanshi there?
I think there's problem.
Excuse me, judges, can I follow up?
I don't think she's there.
Yeah,
Can you
can I
please pause
follow
the
up?
time?
There's time left.
Is there anything you want to add up?
Yeah.
Do you want
Can
to
I
end the
answer?
question?
Can I answer the question
Yeah,
along
you
with
could.
my? I'll need my participant, my partner, to answer the question, and she is not here right now.
We just wait for 2 seconds.
She just left the call, I think, because of technical issues.
Can I follow up till then? Like, I'll ask you the question. You do need FDIs right now, but
No, there's no follow-up.
All right. No, please.
Yeah.
Has she joined?
No, she hasn't.
I'll just try to call her once.
Yes, Imani, what were you saying?
How much time is left for this question answer down?
It's over.
So
Yeah,
okay,
so
then anyway.
we'll move on.
Yeah, we'll move on.
We'll move on to the next ministry.
Yeah. Now, thank you so much, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Now we'd like to call the ministry that focuses on national development by industrialization of rural and backward areas, ensuring more equitable distribution of national income and wealth. Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise.
Hello. Before we like to start, can I ask if I'm audible enough?
Yes,
Am I
we can
audible?
hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So it is a tale oft repeated, but at the cost of perhaps sounding redundant, we'll assert it again. We missed the first and the second phases of industrialization, scraping by somewhat around 1991 by liberalizing the economy when we hit rock bottom. However, the nation has learned its lessons well. When globalization took over the world, we couldn't afford to be slow on the uptake. Micro and small entrepreneurs make about 7 crore people of our nation, dispersed across an approximated 63 million MSEs. And considering the fact that entrepreneurship is a necessity for economic sector or economic growth since times immemorial, the ministry has recognized the need to support this sector. The major blockade most of our small entrepreneurs face is access to credit, especially when they're starting out. This is why, at the dawn of the 21st century, the government enacted the Credit Guarantee Scheme. This scheme essentially seeks to provide easily accessible, collateral-free loans to entrepreneurs. The banks and other financial institutions that are covered by the scheme are given a guarantee by the government that essentially provides loan recovery of up to 85% in the case the borrower defaults on the payments. It has been a largely successful scheme that not only provided access for credit to MSEs, but also alleviated risk concerns for financial institutions. Thank you.
Thank you. The floor is now open for question answer session.
We would like to request Mr. Adityan to choose the 3 ministries for the questions.
Yep, sure. Motorola, Wipro, and Google can throw a question. Go for their questions.
Okay, Motorola, you can ask your question. Motorola?
Well, yeah. So my question is, in the abstract, the policy states that they are giving they are giving credit funds. Excuse me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
When did you just give a hello?
Yeah, you are audible. Just go ahead with your question.
I think he muted himself.
Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is the micro is in the abstract it's stated that giving upliftment of the startups and micro industry, how is policy and the ministry working in the recent pandemic state?
Can I ask? Cool. Thank you so much for your question. So we've also said it in our policy at the end, at the conclusion part, about the emergency credit line guarantee scheme, which we've enacted in August 2020 in the event of the lockdown and the whole pandemic scenario. Basically, under this scheme, we've extended the fund and the budget and the upper limit of the loans, as well as the existing debt amount. All of the statistics are mentioned in our policies abstract. I could still mention them, but I don't have time. And we've also extended the percentage of the loan that will be recovered by the ministry to 100% for eligible candidates. So I think that answers your question. That's basically the new scheme that we've introduced to top up the scheme in the event of the pandemic.
Thank you. Wipro?
Oh. Yeah. Sorry, but Wipro did not raise its hand. No, not me, neither my partner.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Google?
I'd like to confirm if I'm audible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So under the CGS, for the SBI, the largest lender in the country, about 9% of their SMEs were non-performing assets. Now, why doesn't this policy have a more graded approach or probably a regulatory body that can regulate the loans that are being given and that can grade the guarantee? And do you plan to make any amends in this regard?
All right. So we do not want to, if we set up a regulatory body, what commonly happens is that bureaucratic red tape procedures end up making this whole procedure really long, really hard. And the whole point of this scheme was to make credit easily accessible to the small entrepreneurs. That's why it's collateral free, and that's why we've given all this, the whole scheme, right? So if we make this a regulatory, there is some eligibility criteria, which is done by the CGT MSE, the trust that we've established to implement the scheme. But if we keep too much regulation, what happens is that it kind of hinders the whole process. Does that answer your question?
Can I follow up on that?
There's no follow-up.
No.
Aditya, we like to choose one more ministry to ask their question. Mr. Aditya?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sap can go with the question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but we didn't raise our hand for the question.
So the ministries, they've raised their hand. You could see it on your screen.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Can you verbally tell him what all ministries have raised their hand?
Yeah, so Lenovo and Intel have raised their hands.
Okay, Lenovo can go with the question. Yeah.
My partner will start with the question.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so let me quote what you said in your abstract. The dawn of the era of globalization in India meant that there was now a chance for the Indian MSMEs to enter the global market. Let me tell you why the MSMEs are called micro, small, and medium enterprises. It's because they operate on a micro, small, and medium scale. And the moment they enter the global market, they become MNCs. What is the agenda behind the Ministry of Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises to launch a scheme that makes MSMEs? Also, our economy is currently under recession. There is no cash flow in our economy. Of course, you can keep introducing stimulus packages, but then you will put our country under further debt. There's no cash flow in the economy right now, so you can't keep introducing stimulus packages. What do you have to say about this?
Okay, so there's two parts to your question. The first part is the whole MNC thing. The point is that to enter the era of globalization, it's not that we straight up help the micro industries and they suddenly become MNCs, but to give the start, it's mainly for first-time entrepreneurs. This whole scheme, because they're the ones who have a hard problem with getting loans because they don't really have a high credit score. So that's the point, that at some point all of this will help out, right? It's a long-term plan. It's not that micro industries are going to take over the world. And secondly, sorry, the second part of your question was the cash flow in the economy, right? That's why we have the whole Atmanirbhar package, right? And that's why 9% of the GDP almost is given to the banks to increase cash flow in the economy. We know that there's no cash flow in the economy. It's an unprecedented time. And that's why we have the emergency credit line guarantee scheme to ensure that the
Can I follow up?
there is credit available for the micro entrepreneurs who will be struggling during this time.
There's no follow-up. So we move on. Very well answered, Ministry. Next, we have the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, which deals with medical and public health matters, including drug control, as well as aims at stabilizing the population consistent with the requirements of economic growth, social development, and environmental protection.
Yeah, before I start, am I audible to everyone?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so good morning, judges and my fellow panelists. I am speaking on behalf of the National Mental Health Policy of 2014. So this policy is basically acknowledge all the significance and importance of mental health. This policy is inclusive in nature and incorporates an integrated participatory rights and evidence-based approach. It does not reduce mental health to merely being a disease or a disability, and it also takes into account all the stakeholders to work as a collective and achieve its common goals. Yeah, Mohammed.
The goals for the policies are to reduce the distress, disability, and pre-mortality associated with the mental health problems, to enhance understanding of the mental health in the country, and to strengthen the leadership in mental health sector at the state, district, and national level. The objective to attain the goals are to provide universal access to healthcare, to increase access in mental health service for especially the vulnerable groups, including homeless persons, people staying in remote areas, who have difficult terrains, and educationally, socially, economically deprived sections, and to increase access treatments and care and support service by the person with suffering from mental health problems. Follow up, achieve these aims, goals, and objectives. Government have come up with the implementation action as an effective governance and accountability for mental health, which is to motivate people with issuing of policies, making of rules and regulation. Second is promotion of mental health by
Hello,
redesigning.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but your time is up.
Okay. Can I just go? Okay. Can you just wrap it up? Doing? Can you just
wrap it up within 10 seconds. Yeah.
Doing, just conclude it.
Yes. So basically, the national mental health policy in India is where it is mostly basic for public health services where it is often insufficient and inaccessible. The mental health policy is completely sidelined and not ignored. So the policy is basically highlighting the national mental health illnesses and trying to recover them and trying to help people overcome them. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Now we would like to request Mr. Dipanshu to choose the participants to ask questions from the participants that have raised their hands.
First can be asked by Ministry of Micro Enterprises, then we can go for Ministry of Home Affairs, and then we can go for Ministry of External Affairs. So that's micro, home, and external.
Okay.
Why you could ask your question.
Okay, so I would like to quote you on your abstract again. To increase access to mental health services for vulnerable groups, including homeless persons in remote areas, difficult terrains, educationally, socially, or economically deprived sections. I want to ask, how does your ministry, has your ministry first followed up on, how did it follow up on this? And secondly, what happened to this objective of yours?
Okay, so I would like to answer your question. as of now, we have around more than 500 districts having for programs for mental health care centers, and we also have in that centers we also have career guidance counselors. We have interventions for people to speak up about their needs and everything. Mohammed, would you like to add anything to this?
No, I think you covered. Second, they even in the rural areas where people, in the current state, people lost jobs and it affected the rural areas, mostly the laborers. Uh, Government have ministry have partnered with the NGOs who look and follow ups for the same with the legislative body looking into it and making a solution of how we can on the statistic or how we can proceed and make things better time by time.
Okay, thank you. Vipro,
Yeah.
with your
Am I audible?
yeah.
Yeah. Good morning, respected judges and ministries. My question being that this mental health policy addressed the issue to reach out to vulnerable groups and in low income groups. But we saw in this pandemic how that policy went to a crackdown. Fruit sellers and auto drivers who had no income and were drinking alcohol. So this policy does not lay down the implementation steps to reach out to such people who don't even know the real meaning of mental health. So yeah, how this ministry gonna reach out to the vulnerable and low income groups?
Yeah, thank you for your question. We have various awareness campaigns where we speak about mental health, try to reach out to people who don't know about mental health and educate them about it. And as you said, for the auto drivers that do not have jobs and drink alcohol, we also have Alcohol Anonymous where we help them to overcome that addiction. Yeah, Mohammed, would you like to add anything?
No, you completed. I think you sum up.
Yeah.
Okay, Cisco.
Right, am I audible?
Yeah.
Right, good morning to all the dignitaries present. So my question being, 74.61% of the society believes that in our society is not a real issue. And even though all the statistics you mentioned with the programs being in place, still about 30% of the statistics show that people aren't aware of mental health. Now I get that all the programs you mentioned, but don't you think the ministry is not educating the public about this policy? Shouldn't that be the priority first?
Ministry's priority first is to promote the mental health. It's true that the people in India don't consider mental health as a serious problem, and it is. That's the reason in 2011 by WHO, India was one of the most highest number of suicide attempts in the country. To solve the problem, government came up with a policy, national mental health policy, to monitor, to enhance the policy in the country and to promote it. It is lacking due to it is lacking. It is a steady process, not a steady process, and it will take time. But it's the citizens' responsibility also to follow up for the same.
Right? Can I follow?
Doing. I think can you cover up for that?
Yeah, so the partner side, it is always everything is a two-way process. So if the ministry is trying to educate about the mental health and everything, it's also the citizens also have to try a little bit to come up and try to speak up about it. As a ministry, we are always trying our best to educate the person in the country about mental health, as it is a serious issue.
Well answered, ministry. Now we'd like to call the ministry with many responsibilities. The important among them being internal security, border management, center-state relations, management of
Okay, I'll continue. Administration of Union Territories, Management of Central Armed Police Forces, Disaster Management, Ministry of Home Affairs.
Okay, before beginning, can I make sure that I'm audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, good morning, respected judges and representatives of the respected ministries. No one leaves their home until home becomes the mouth of a shark. Rabindranath Tagore quoted that India has always been the sea of humanity. India has always gave shelter and food to the people who knocked on our doors after getting prosecuted from their respective countries. Citizenship Amendment Act 2019 aims at providing citizenship to the people belonging to the communities of Hindu, Sikh, Jain, Parsis, Buddhist, and Christian after being religiously prosecuted from the countries of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. These are the people who came to India to save the honor of their women, their family, and to save their respective religions. So this aims at providing certificate of naturalization and citizenship to the people who were religiously prosecuted in the concerned countries. And it also aims at reducing the years of residence from 12 years to 5 years to ease the process. And we have already given them long-term visas and travel documents, which has been expired. And also, I would like to end by saying that Minister of Home Affairs, Mr. Amit Shah, said that this act serves a humanitarian issue and is beyond political ideologies. So this will work as an aid, and this will grow up the image of India in the whole world. Thank you. We're open for questions.
Thank you. We like Mr. Adityan to choose the ministries from the ones who've raised their hands.
Your Ministry of Education, Ministry of Communication, Ministry of Labor and Employment can go for their questions.
Okay. Ministry of Education.
Yeah, hello to all the ministries and the judges. So when we talk about the CA in the context of Article 14 of the Constitution, Article 14 talks about two tests, the test of reasonable clarification and the test of manifest arbitrariness. So can you tell us how does the CAA pass the test of the manifest arbitrariness?
Yeah, so Article 14 does not even come in the way of CAA. The people who are being religiously prosecuted. So we'll be in contact with the concerned countries to ask which all people were religiously prosecuted. So there's a clear evidence of people being prosecuted from Afghanistan, from Pakistan. Recently, we saw attacks in gurdwaras in Afghanistan from the Taliban group, and the same in Pakistan, houses of Hindus being damaged by the municipal corporation of Pakistan. So yeah, there's a clear evidence, and Article 14 does not even come away in the way of CA.
Ministry of Commerce and Industry.
Before you continue, I would just like to remind the participants to please mention their contingent code before asking their question. Yeah, continue.
Yeah, Ministry of Commerce and Industry could ask your question.
Ministry of Commerce and Industry, are you here?
He's on
think
mute.
we can.
I'm sorry, but
I had not raised my hand for this question. Yeah, we had not raised our hand.
No, it was Ministry of Communication, not Commerce.
Oh,
okay. Sorry.
Ministry of
Communication.
Yes, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
So my contingent code is Google 001, and my question is related to the abstract provided by the Ministry of Home Affairs. In the last para, and I quote, due to the ongoing pandemic, the implementation of this act is delayed. The standing committee has asked for more time for framing laws of the act. I would like to know why is the standing committee asking for more time, and why is the standing committee in charge of framing the laws for this act?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Shabir, would you like to answer?
Yes. So as you know that the nation faces an unprecedented crisis right now, and right now the focus of our national security should be to control the pandemic, and we have more issues to focus on right now, which is the national health of our citizens and the well-being that spread around our country. So right now, due to the ongoing pandemic, we would say that we just ask for more implemented, because right now we have to focus on another important issue of home affairs, which is the national security of our citizens from this deadly virus. And but rest assured that after the crisis is over, we will be implementing CAA throughout the nation as effectively as possible without any hindrances to the other sectors, while keeping in interest the general home affairs of our country are good to go as well.
Also, adding on to that, the standing committee will frame the laws for CA once the documents are being collected. So for now, the backward steps are being followed, like the office steps are being followed, documents are being ready, the steps for forming the laws are being ready. So standing committee has just asked for more 3 months to frame more laws, and this will be executed once the pandemic is over. Thank you.
Okay, Ministry of Labor and Employment with your question.
Good morning. I'm Lenovo 004, and my question isn't regarding the regulation or my fellow ministries have already asked questions regarding the regulation, etc. So now I would like to ask you, if given a situation that a person he can't prove his citizenship because his papers have been burnt or etc. Any reason he can't prove his citizenship, you will be deporting them to Bangladesh, Pakistan, etc. And you, the Ministry of the Ministry of Home Affairs, has deemed these countries terrorist countries. Now, will you deport the people who may or may not be your citizens to terrorist countries? First question. And the second part of that question is, if you deport them and if they can't prove it, but they're actually citizens, how will you regulate their deportation if the other countries don't agree to take them in? Because they also have a lot of backlashes. They also have recessions going on because of the pandemic. How will you take them in? How will you send them away if no country is ready to accept them? Where will you deport them?
Okay, so thank you so much for bringing up the question. First of all, this act is to give citizenship to the people, as you quoted, from the terrorist countries. So we are saving them from the terrorist countries, and no one has to prove their citizenship for this. Only people being prosecuted will be provided citizenship. This act does not have to take citizenship of someone. And also, if you talk about illegal immigrants who cannot prove their citizenship, that comes under NRC, and for that detention centers are being made, and already some budget has been fixed for the detention centers, and Assam has already built up detention centers. Delhi is the next state for that. Yeah, so this is the act of giving citizenship, not of taking citizenship. Shabir, would you like to add on?
No, he had cleared up most of it. But however, that controlling of deportation, we will be having detention camps, and if any deportation is to happen, it will happen in an orderly fashion. And however, these terrorist countries, they are only persecuting minorities, and the Citizenship Amendment Act is protecting these minorities. So I do not think that deportation should happen for these minorities, or if it has to happen, it will happen in an orderly manner without compromising on any of their needs, and making sure that they are deported in a dignified and in a good way, so that the image of India as at an international scale also is maintained at a very
Time is
good
up.
level.
Your time is up. Moving on. Up next, the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, who administer the policies for consumer cooperatives, price monitoring, essential commodity availability, prescribes measures to see that the system works towards the food security of vulnerable people.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. The judges, the panelists. This is Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. Our ministry is apex body of Government of India, which is divided into two governments, Department of Consumer Affairs and Food and Public Distribution. The Department of Consumer Affairs deals with consumer protection. As India, with a population of more than 130 crores, we need to regulate the rights of buyers, the consumers, which are responsible for economy. Our ministry deals with problems of supply and distribution of, of daily products, essential products, price rise of essential commodities, cause and effects, BSc, BIS hallmarking, and implementation of consumer helping centers. Whereas Department of Food and Public Distribution deals with adoption of latest technologies, training manpower and functioning warehouses, construction of godowns, and distributing essential grains and pulses to rural areas. The policy, which was introduced in 2018, IMDS, is having five basic objectives, which is deduplication of all ration cards and beneficiaries data, and computerization of all data so that people who have ration cards and Indian citizens receive food grains. Also, advancement in data analytics needs to bring continuous improvements in our logistic and supply chain. Development of web mobile-based
I'm sorry to
applications
interrupt,
and
Ministry of Consumer, but your time is up. Please conclude the same.
I would like to conclude that we are also trying to
Okay, I think we can move on.
Yeah.
We would like to request Mr. Dipanshu to choose the questions.
Okay, so we can go for first Ministry of Commerce, followed by Ministry of Education, and then we have Ministry of Home Affairs. So that's that's Commerce, Education, and Home.
All right, may I go ahead with my question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So, Ministry of Consumer Affairs, while going through your policy paper, the last page mentions that we are aiming at abolishing MMPO. So, how is abolishing MMPO going to help IMPDs? Because the amendments that were made over time with MMPO states that there's no restriction on setting up milk processing as long as the regulations stated in the fifth schedule of MMPO 1992 are met. So, how is this going to help with the consumer side, consumer affairs side of your ministry? Thank you.
hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
So the abolishment of MMPO, which is milk and milk product order, which states basically Department of Food and Public Distributions also have seen alteration in milk and other products. Basically, MMPO states that the promulgated milk and dairy sector, which is supplying this milk, to stop that, we abolish this order so that supply of liquid milk desired quality can be maintained for general public and for regulating production, process, and distribution. Hello.
So we like Ministry of Education to go ahead with the question.
Okay, so I just have a small concern basically. How is there any provision in the policy to revise the database in like maybe regular intervals? See, I understand there is a system for adding people under who come below the poverty line to this facility, but what is the process of eliminating people who have maybe gone above the BPL, or somebody who's fraudulently holding a ration card? How do you recognize them and purify your database, if you will?
So thank you for asking this question. So there are various centers set up in rural areas where majority of fake ration cards are produced. Once a ration card is or a beneficiary data enters our system, it is going to recheck its originality, that is it real or not, and fake ones will direct get deleted or banned in our system. As you asked that what is the process of re-entering it, these centers set in rural areas, their job is to keep our systems updated, because entering all this data in once is not one month or 1 year job. It is going to be continuous, and we are also introducing many web data analytics systems and techniques, which includes machine learning and data science, which will help to solve this problem.
Thank you.
We like Home Affairs to ask the question.
Yes. Good morning, fellow ministries and judges. So my question to the Ministry of Consumer Affairs is that in the policy abstract that you mentioned, while the public distribution system does a good job at providing food grains to the poor people, the policy does not mention a very important problem which has plagued public distribution since its inception: the problem of hoarding and black marketing of grains by the traders. So how does the Ministry of Consumer Affairs plan to counter illegal traders, hoarders, and people who sell the grains on the black market?
So the problem of black marketing of grains is solved by improving transportation and introducing many softwares which regulates where the grains are going to which centers and how much is it distributing. It also includes digitalization of supply chain, and more than 2,500 crores are spent for this regulation. After that, 2 crore 75 lakhs fake ration card have been detected and abolished, plus many fair fair price shops have been shut down because of their illegal activities, and new are introduced in same areas which are regulated and monitored.
Okay, thank you. Now we go ahead with Ministry of Communications. The ministry is responsible for grant of licenses for various telecom services like Unified Access Service Internet and VSAT service. The department is also responsible for frequency management in the field of radio communication in close coordination with the international bodies. The floor is open.
Okay, so am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So great telecom and new age technology in today's world are the elixir of life. Greetings to one and all present here. This is the Ministry of Communications, and we're here to introduce to you the National Digital Communications Policy 2018, better known as the NDCP 2018. We're here to tell you that digitalization, along with ubiquitous connectivity and consumer empowerment, will enable an environment for disruptive innovation. What we propose is simple, yet revolutionary. While we've already seen that Digital India is unfolding, the NDCP recognizes the need for digitization and digitalization. Our key objectives involve increasing the contribution of this sector from 6% of India's GDP to 8%, as well as to come in the top 50 nations of the ICT Development Index from position 134 in 2017. In pursuit of accomplishing these goals by 2022, the NDCP envisages 3 missions. Connect India, focusing on building robust digital communications infrastructure. Propel India, focusing on investments, innovation, and indigenous manufacturing. And Secure India, focusing on digital sovereignty, safety, and security of digital communications. With the NDCP 2018 being implemented, nothing can stop our Golden Eagle from soaring to new heights. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We like Mr. Adityan to choose the ministries from the raise hand feature. Mr. Adityan.
He's on mute.
I think there's a technical
hello.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Labor, and Ministry of Education can go with their questions.
Also, we just wanted to say, since that Ministry of Labor, that is Lenovo, has already got 3 chances to ask, we like you to ask another
All
ministry.
right. 1 second. MSME can go with the question. Yeah.
Okay. What were the 3 ministries?
Sorry.
What were the name of the 3 ministries?
Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Education, and MSME.
Okay, thank you.
Participants, don't forget to please first say your code.
Yeah. Ministry of MSME, you can ask your question.
So my contingency code is Huawei 002. So my question for you guys, for the ministry is, so one of the goals of National Digital Communication Policy 2018 was to provide 1 Gbps connectivity to all Gram Panchayats of India by 2020. So given the current pandemic situation where education has completely been taken to online platforms, how successful has the NDCP been in achieving this goal of National Broadband Mission or Rashtriya Broadband Abhiyan?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so for the current scenario, the policy obviously aims to make India ready for the future, but the policy depends upon the machinery part from which those policies could be addressed and can be put in reality. And one of our goals was to implement this by 2022 and not 2020. But obviously now, because of the because of the global pandemic, it's impossible to bring in such immense change. So yes, we'll still try to implement all these laws by 2022.
Ministry of External Affairs.
Good afternoon. My contingent code is Cisco 001. All right, so the National Telecommunication Policy which was implemented in the year 2012 has not met its targeted goal in the time frame the ministry had previously mentioned. Keeping this very fact in mind, the growth rate of the current policy is about 3 to 3.5%, which again does not help us attain the goals in the stipulated time fact that the ministry has mentioned right now. There's a clear lack of a solid implementation plan. So how does the ministry hope to achieve a better implementation plan in order for us to meet our goals in the time frame the ministry has mentioned?
Okay, so I think this again comes down to the current scenario. Uh, I'm 100% sure that if it wasn't for the global pandemic, the person that he quoted 3.8% progress, it would have been definitely more than that. At least twice of that is what we were expecting. But again, once the issue of the coronavirus is resolved, we'll look to get back on track and try to implement all our rules by 2022.
Ministry of Education.
Yeah, so I'll quote a line from your abstract, which says that the preamble of NDCP promises to make such policies and frameworks which can enhance dynamic competition in the digital communication sector. Now, competition seems to have gotten out of hand. So I have a two-part question. According to the economic survey 1920, there was intense competition in this sector, which led to stress, and the prices of data fell down to one of the lowest in the world, which is around rupees 7.7 per GB. Now, my two-part question is, did this intense competition happen due to the efforts made in course with the policy, or there are some other factors affecting it? And number two, does the policy have any like provisions to handle such stress that has caused a crash in the telecom industry?
Could you just reframe your question and let me know exactly what point are you talking about from our abstract?
Okay, so your abstract has a line which says, in the preamble of the NDCP, there are further few objectives mentioned, right? And you have bullet points after that. So I think I picked up the first one, which talked about dynamic competition in the digital communication sector. And I found one latest stat which said economic survey seems to have found out that there was stress in this industry because of the competition, which pushed down the data prices to one of the lowest in the world, which was around rupees 7.7 per GB, which is quite low. Now, my question part one would be, did the efforts in line with this policy cause such a stress, or was it some other factor that you can help me with? Or does the policy have any provision to help alleviate the stress in the sector?
Okay, so I feel definitely the policy had a small, tiny bit role to play in the stress that has been created. But when we said that we want dynamic competition, we meant more in the areas of robotics, Internet over Things, and other similar technologies. And could you say your part two of the question again?
I think the question answer round is already over, so the time is up.
All right, no problem.
Yeah.
So we move on. Up next, we have the ministry that is responsible for India's representation in the United Nations. It also advises other ministries and state governments when the latter have dealings with foreign governments or institutions. Ministry of External Affairs.
All right. A very good afternoon to everyone present here. So to begin with, let's ask ourselves the question of what a foreign policy actually is. A foreign policy is a framework within which the government of a given country conducts its relations with the outside world in different formats, such as bilateral, regional, multilateral, or global.
Now, speaking about global affairs, India has been recognized as a rising country on a trajectory to become a great power with ambitions of being amongst the most powerful and influential states in the international system. The foreign policy, as Prime Minister Modi rightly said, will pave our way in achieving a leading role in global affairs, which is imperative. With that being said, the foreign policy that we have implemented follows four essential goals. Firstly, to protect India from traditional and non-traditional threats.
Secondly, to create an external environment which is conducive for an inclusive development of India so that the benefits of growth can reach the poorest of the poor in the country. Thirdly, to ensure that India's voice is heard on global forums and has an opinion on issues such as global dimensions of terrorism and climate change. Lastly, to engage and protect Indians from Indian diaspora.
Now, these goals of the Indian foreign policy help us prove the fact that India is bound to ensure that it plays an important role in shaping the global agenda and emerges as a strong pole in the multipolar world. That is our present contemporary political scenario. Right? Thank you, and we're open to questions now.
I would request Mr. Dipanshu to choose the questions.
Sure. We already have ruled out Minister of Education, right, from asking questions.
From for Lenovo, Labor and Employment, and also Cisco External Affairs. They've already, yeah, Cisco is already.
Ministry of Consumer Affairs. Ministry of Consumer Affairs has not got a chance to ask a question. So
Ministry of Consumer Affairs, okay, but they haven't raised the hands.
But they haven't raised their hand.
Yeah, so if they want to, just letting them.
Okay. Okay, so because they haven't, I'll go for the other ones. One can be Ministry of Labor. Can that be allowed? Have they?
No,
Okay.
no, not Ministry of Labor.
Right. Can Ministry of Commerce be allowed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the first question can be asked by Ministry of Commerce. I think education is ruled out. What about Ministry of Communication?
Education is not ruled out. They can still ask.
Sure. So second can be asked by education, and third can be asked by Home Affairs.
Okay. Ministry of Commerce and Industry with your question.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Dear Ministry, my question to you as the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Intel 002, is that, as you have mentioned in the policy paper, and I'm quoting this, one of the goals of the Ministry of External Affairs policy is to eradicate colonialism. But shouldn't eradicating hegemony be the goal, keeping in mind initiatives like Make in India, especially over the fact that till 11 months to February 2020, exports from India had touched 293 billion, while imports were almost double to 436 billion. So what are your views on that? And yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, the Ministry of Commerce, for your question. Keeping in mind the very fact that you just mentioned about how our entire concept of trade has skyrocketed, we believe we can achieve this very same goal by choosing a different way. Because we also believe that colonialism is kind of stopping us from reaching our utmost goal in the global affairs world. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Ministry of Education.
So there seems to be a clash of opinion, which I'd want to ask you about. So the government has been saying that there's a risk of hostile takeovers, which is why they're not allowing FDI. But then just yesterday, in the speech the PM gave, he boasted about how India has welcomed record FDI in the country. On top of that, the 1920 financial year saw a record 13% jump in the FDI inflow, and around $49.98 billion were welcomed into the country. What is the stance of the ministry? What is it that you're trying to achieve? Are we allowing FDI or not?
All right. Our main objective of this foreign policy is to ensure that our country will stand in the first line in the aspect of global affairs, right? So keeping in mind the very fact that we've detained certain FDIs is only a matter of national security. But stating the fact that Prime Minister Modi stated how FDI improves our entire economy also proves the fact that we, as the Ministry of External Affairs, focus on situations that help us grow as a country. So to answer your questions, we will nitpick what is best for our country regarding this entire situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ministry of Home Affairs with your question.
Okay, so my contingency code is Wipro 004. So my question being to the Ministry of External Affairs that one of the main aspect of India's foreign policy is to protect the people of Indian diaspora outside India. So there are 44 million people working outside India, but we often come over instances where Indians being discriminated, especially students in schools, and they are not getting jobs, and especially people belonging to Hindu and Sikh religion due to their unique identity. What is the ministry's stance in this, and what are the implementation steps to decrease this? And another part of the question being, there is propaganda against Indian diaspora in countries like Canada.
I believe the Ministry of Home Affairs is not present. Is it okay if I?
Yeah, you just answer the question. I think there's a
Yeah,
network
just answer
problem.
the
Yeah.
first.
All right, thank you. So to answer the question said by Ministry of Home Affairs, one of the main goals of our foreign policy is having our very own Prime Minister Modi go and attend various countries. This is simply to build and make our relations with different countries stronger. So when we're doing this, when we're sending our very own Prime Minister to various countries, this shows at the country that India plays a very strong role in global affairs. Because as you rightly mentioned, India is discriminated because they've not portrayed previously, they haven't portrayed a very strong image in global affairs. So our step of implementation is where our Prime Minister Modi goes to several countries around the world and builds his relations. So in order to strengthen diplomatic affairs, creating and destroying discrimination whenever possible. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. That was engaging. We now have India's federal ministry, the Ministry of Labor and Employment, which is responsible to protect and safeguard the interest of workers in general and the poor, deprived, and disadvantaged sections of the society.
So, am I audible?
Yeah.
So, good morning to one and all present here. We represent the Ministry of Labor and Employment. The Ministry of Labor and Employment is one of the most oldest and the most important ministry in India. The policy that is being introduced by us is the National Employment Policy of 2018. It is being worked upon right now, and confidential drafts are being made, and it will be implemented once it's ready to be put into action. This policy consists of a comprehensive execution plan to create more employment in both unorganized and organized sectors, because it is forecasted that 18 million is the number of unemployed in our country. So we felt that it was very essential for this policy to be enacted in our country. If not eliminate the total number of unemployed in our country, we could at least take a step forward towards reducing it.
The main targeted goals of this policy are the following: to solve large-scale unemployment, improving youth employment, to ensure minimum wages are provided, generating more employment in the formal sector, and laborer and employer welfare. Now we will talk about how this policy will make a difference. The government is going to provide the employers with financial and non-financial incentives to equip them with the motive to provide more jobs to the candidates who fill the job criteria. This will create more jobs, contribute more to the sectors, and in turn contribute to the economy in the long run. Now, coming to the next part of the contribution, the implementation, more strategies that would make a difference will be spoken by my colleague.
The NEP will result in a better socio-economic country. This NEP will deal with a lot of problems in the unorganized sectors of the nation. We know that the majority of our population is engaged in unorganized sectors, so we feel that it is essential to solve unemployment there too. Our further steps, goals, and recommendations to deal with these issues are a national database for migrant workers, other social security schemes, and job portals in the unorganized sectors. Thank you.
That's it from our side. Now we're open to questions.
Yeah, Mr. Aditya, we like you to choose them.
Ministry of Communication, they have a chance of a question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ministry of Communication can go with the question. Ministry of Education. And
we'd like to give them since they've already asked a lot many questions.
okay, all right. So Ministry of Commerce, what about them?
Yeah, Commerce can ask.
Yeah, so Ministry of Commerce and MSME can go with the question.
I think we have food and distribution.
Sorry?
I think Consumer Affairs have raised their hands, so maybe Consumer Affairs have raised their hands, so maybe we could give them a chance.
Okay, all right, okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Ministry.
Here, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. My contention code is Google 006. So I'd like to ask, towards the end of your abstract, you've put up a graph. You've mentioned a graph that shows the projections that you're expecting, showing the employment rates, right? So according to the employment rates mentioned there, it shows that you're expecting about 4.5% increase in employment between 2018 and 2020. Of course, we'll not consider anything after 2020, considering the global pandemic. These are completely unforeseen circumstances. But even there, the graph has shown 4.5% increase in the employment rate. However, the ministry hasn't been able to uphold their plans. In fact, we have seen a decrease in the employment rates. So clearly the plans that you have currently aren't working. Do you plan to change anything? Do you plan to make any amendments?
So if you saw the official document that's obviously confidential, as I mentioned before, it hasn't been introduced. The policy hasn't been implemented yet. And this graph is only a forecast. Obviously, it calls for a lot of speculation, but this is what we are forecasting during these years. And we are starting job portals and we're starting social security schemes. So that should obviously boost our industry by a lot.
Adding
and
on.
Do you have anything to add on?
Yes, adding on. You said, so this was a speculation. The graph we have is a prediction from 2018, and you would be surprised to know that instead of, it was 4.7% to be exact, an increase of 4.7%, but it's actually increased by 4.9%. And now due to the pandemic, it may slow down a little, but those graphs actually were broken from 2018 to 2020. 2018 saw the least employment rate, which was at 49.9%, but our graphs were broken and the record was even higher.
Okay, thank you. Ministry of Commerce and Industry.
Yeah, hi, I'm Intel 004. So my question is, in your policy paper, page 4, part 3, a paragraph says, we will be providing incentives and funds to a huge number of employees. Quoting that, question being for what and to whom? 65% of the population comes under the age of 35, of which a bunch of them are NEETs, that is not in education, employment, or training. So which employees are being given incentives and the funds under this policy? Like, because there is no one employed, so where is this fund being directed to? And also adding on to that, so many Indians are in the informal sector. So how is this policy reversing that pattern, and where is the fund going? That is the main question. Thank you.
So first thing I would like to say, Yeah, first thing I would like to say is your NEP statistics are wrong. They have been changed recently. First thing. Second thing is basically that all these criterias, that's what this confidential draft we're working on will consist of the criterias and etc. For we provide these incentives to employers, not to employees. We provide them these incentives to employ more laborers, and hence this will motivate them to employ more laborers and etc. So the criteria will be depending upon how much do they generate for the economy is the main criteria, because we won't be, as a government, we won't be investing in something that won't pay us back in the economy. That'll be our first criteria, and there'll be many more criteria that will add on. Thank you.
And to further add on to what he said, where the funds are being directed. So I mentioned that we're going to start a national database for migrant workers that comes under the unorganized sectors and other social security schemes, because that's what they really want in the unorganized sectors, and job portals in the unorganized sectors. So all the funds are going to be diverted mainly towards the unorganized sectors, because mainly they lack funding. The organized sectors have enough funding, and we're going to be directing our funds mostly towards unorganized sectors. Thank you.
Hitachi can ask the question.
So yeah, thank you for letting me ask the question, and my contingent code is Hitachi 001. So my question for the Ministry of Labor and Employment is that just considering the current pandemic situation and seeing how the things are going. So just before this pandemic, the things were not going good with the labor and unemployment reasons that were going in India. So I have one question for you is that what do you think that how does India stands up to the global standard with regard to the present labor policies that are being held in India, and does it meet those standards?
Sir, this policy is a first step towards that. Let me remind you that this is a step towards that policy, towards making a standard in the world, basically taking a step forward in the world. That's why we're going to be starting a national database for migrant workers, security schemes, and job portals. I've mentioned this before, and all these are steps taken towards achieving this.
Adding on to what Suraj said, we will, as you spoke about the pandemic, right? We helped the laborers of this country in many ways, such as providing rations, etc. Of course, there were problems such as transportation of laborers through different states, but they were solved soon. We provided buses, we did everything we could for our laborers. Now, coming to the part where you spoke about how we're gonna make a name in the global market. This policy is the pedestal to making a name in the global market. This policy acts as a pedestal. We've stated this in our abstract as well. This policy is the pedestal to becoming a global standard. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Lastly, we have a recently renamed ministry which focuses on improving the quality of education throughout the country. Ministry of Education.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our contingent codes are SAB 003 and 004. We're representing the Ministry of Education and introducing the National Education Policy 2020. The first national policy on education was introduced in 1986 and later modified in 1992. After more than 2 decades of prodigious changes in times and technology, a new education policy was needed. The National Education Policy 2020 aims to address many growing developmental imperatives of our country. This policy proposes the revision and revamping of all aspects of education structure to create a new system that is aligned with the SDG 4. The policy envisages that the curriculum and pedagogy of our institutions must develop among the students a deep sense of respect towards the fundamental duties and constitutional values. The policy aims to bring equitable access to quality education to all, with a particular focus on historically marginalized and underrepresented groups. The extant 10+2 structure will be modified into 5+3+3+4 structure, constituted by the foundational, preparatory, middle, and secondary stages, covering ages 3 to 18. Understanding the importance of multilingualism in our country, wherever possible, the medium of instruction until at least grade 5, but preferably till grade 8 and beyond, will be home or regional languages. In all these stages, experiential learning will be adopted, including hands-on arts and sports integrated education. Education is fundamental for achieving full human potential, and providing universal access to quality education to all is the key to India's ascent on global stage. Thank you.
Thank you. We would like to request Mr. Dipanshu to ask the question.
Okay, so the first question can be asked by Ministry of Consumer Affairs. Second can be asked by External Affairs. And the third question can be asked by...
External Affairs is done with the question.
Okay.
Hitachi,
Okay, so the
Huawei, and Motorola, they need to ask one more question to be equal with all. So if these
Sure. Let's go with those three then.
if they are ready, yes.
So should I start
Could you
with my
repeat the
question?
name of the teams, please? One is Hitachi.
Hitachi, Consumer Affairs, and Motorola.
Okay.
Ministry of Consumer Affairs.
Yeah. So thank you for letting me put forward my question. And my question to my contingent code is Hitachi, and my question to the Ministry of Education is that. So as we know that this year the education policy has been changed, and there has been a drastic change in the education policy after so many years. So my question is that with the coming of the new education policy, we accept a surge of students entering into basic technical fields and other vocational branches. So what do you think, and what is your opinion that do we have necessary infrastructure such as vocational training centers and institutes for the same? And what I feel is that if we plan regarding something, there has to be execution. If there is no execution, then I feel that it's not a plan.
Would you want to take this, Bhavna?
No, go ahead.
Cool. So, so the policy statement itself talks about lacking infrastructure in the education system, which I would say is very gutsy on the part of the committee, because governments are always defensive about not having something. Number one, talking about policy does accept that infrastructure is lacking. Number two, there are plans to set up infrastructure in correspondence with all the plans that the committees aim to implement. Other than that, vocational courses and everything have been divided very well throughout the groundwork to help training. Now, starting with the Anganwadi trainers, there is a task force set up to train the Anganwadi workers. Then there is a task force set up to train primary school workers. And then there is a compulsory B.Ed that is required before you can enter a teaching field. All of this is to ensure that the quality is uplifted, improved, and technological and vocational skills that are meant to develop, that are meant to be imbibed in the coming generation is done well. So yeah, and again, policy is one driving force that can help the janta to hold the government accountable. Now that you know that there is lacking infrastructure, as the policy says, you can hold the government accountable. It just forces the government to more and more focus on building infrastructure for you. So I think it goes both ways, right?
Thank you. I would like to ask if Huawei and Motorola have any questions. So then please raise. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So the national education policy states that teachers needs to have a BA degree, but in municipal schools, majority of municipal schools, the teachers are not very well educated. Even they are like 12 or graduate. So for them, even if they are from a very might be not for a very economics financial stable background. So how is government and policy going to train them for the course for the BA education to achieve that result? I think you just got what I meant.
Bhavna, would you want to answer?
Yeah, so the policy actually mentions that now the eligibility criteria has changed from BA 2 years to 4 years. And the policy also mentions that they're going to focus more on the teachers and have them train throughout their career. They have career management programs during which they'll be able to continuously develop and learn while teaching. And for the municipal schools or the government schools that you were talking about, at that level too, they are offering them merit-based scholarships and things like that for them to help for them to learn and continuously grow their career while teaching.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
So just like, there is a central body for developing study material for education, the new policy also plans to set up a central regulatory system that would regulate the standard of teachers, education of teachers, qualifications required, number of teachers, etc., etc. So, the policy is trying to delegate work to a lot of specialized people. And I think that's how we're going to achieve what your concern was there in the question.
Thank you. Huawei, you can go ahead with your question.
All right, so my question is regarding the implementation of regional languages until I think 5th grade. How is this going? How is the content going to be translated into all these different languages, and how long is that going to take?
See, the thing is, this is a very, very latest policy, and the regional languages, again, there have been clarifications and they're not mandatory, but then again, there are so many schools who prefer to teach in the regional language that it's a good initiative. That being said, we will have material for it which is going to be delegated to specialized institutions who deal with that language, who are an experts. For example, there are so many Bengali writers, South Indian writers, Tamil writers who are very, very good in their fields, just like there are translators from Latin to English, Greek to English. Similarly, there are people who are translating English books into Hindi, Hindi books into Bangla, right? So again, this is also an opportunity, employment opportunity for translators. I'm sure the government is still working on the proper process because the policy does not mention anything about how long it's going to take. But then again, this is so very, right now, it's just like 1 week, 10 days back, that I still think there are some, economics always tries to address like the unforeseen consequences of a policy decision. Just like I mentioned in my abstract also, there are some unforeseen consequences that the ministry will have to deal with. And thank you so much for raising that concern. I think that is another concern that the ministry will have to deal with in the future.
Yeah, just to add to that, just a small point to that, the policy also gives provisions of bilateral agreements to states to have high quality textbooks printed in regional languages and have teachers. For example, those states that lie outside of the subcontinent India, they can have bilateral agreements to have teachers from within the country, within the mainland India, and have those languages taught in the country, in their schools.
Thank you. Thank you so much for such amazing speeches. We'd like to request the judges to give their feedback to the participants.
And you can tell us how you enjoyed the event or anything more.
Sure. On the whole, it was really good. Love the way the abstracts were prepared because I had a chance to go through all of them and the way it was delivered. I have a couple of suggestions because you all have participated in a policy event and, a lot of you might actually go on into the policy field. Whenever it's about not just a competition, even a professional work, whenever if it's about, drafting a policy, evaluating a policy or giving a feedback, form your substance around 5 points, which is whether a policy is financially viable. Second is whether it is administratively doable. Third, whether it is technologically feasible. Fourth, whether it is politically acceptable. And fifth is whether it is socially desirable. And I'll send the points to the organizer so that they can give it to the participants as well. Form your substance, your opinion, and everything that you're going to write or say about any policy, whether framing or evaluating, around these 5 points. Essentially, because these are the 5 parameters around which a policy is always formed. If you don't have the money, it means it's not financially viable. If you don't have the tech for it, it means you cannot do it anyway. Also, if you don't have the political capital in the central government, then it never will be able to push for reforms, right? And it has always been a concept in India that most of the policy reforms come only when there is an accident. For example, the 1991 reforms couldn't have happened if they would not have been, let's say, a forex crisis of India not having money to import things beyond 2 weeks. So I would say that that these 5 points are critically important. Second, always do tremendous amount of research when you're evaluating someone's abstract. For example, we saw a point being raised by a couple of participants that India has banned FDI altogether. Now, I'm sorry to inform, but that statement is actually factually wrong. India hasn't banned FDI. It has maybe just hold on. The point is that India has not banned FDI. The simple point is that India has included a check so that automatic FDI cannot be given to certain companies from certain countries. So for example, if an investment is going to come from our neighboring countries, it will have to be cleared by Ministry of Home Affairs and External Affairs. That doesn't mean that FDI has been banned. In fact, the focus is on bringing it as much as possible. So do tremendous amount of research so that all those inaccurate points can be ruled out. And third is, always remember that execution is an inherent part of planning. Whenever a person says that plan to acha, the plan is good, but the execution is wrong, but the policy is good. So that's a contradictory statement. A policy can never be good unless the point for execution has already been factored. If something cannot be implemented, it's not a policy. Policy is not prepared, in a silo, and it's not theoretical. It is always by its very nature, applicative in its nature, right? So just remember these points, and I'll be happy to send the 5 points I had mentioned initially to the organizers. Right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adityan.
Yeah, hi. Anyway, we are running out of time, so I don't want to make a statement regarding everything. So what I wanted to say is that, do a tremendous amount of research before you do a presentation regarding any policy, and be clear with the facts and figures. Because when you be clear with the facts and figures, otherwise don't throw the questions to the people. Because what I have seen, but anyway, people have performed quite well throughout the presentation. But in some questions, people were not sure about with the facts and figures, and that is a major problem with a public policy sector, where if you're not so sure about the facts and figures, you are directly throwing a very inappropriate question to the people. And regarding the language, I would request everyone to sound politically right. So there is a basic decorum that you have to keep with you when you do a policy presentation, and it's like you are doing a policy presentation in front of a national or international platform. You are representing a particular ministry. You are representing the Indian state. So I would always suggest people to do a little bit research to do a presentation on a political right way of manner. So yeah, these are the matters that I wanted to put it forward. But otherwise, it's great to watch saying people are coming into the policy the sphere and paying a lot of attention towards it. And yeah, thanks for the organizers for doing it.
Thank you so much, judges, for being a part of the event. I hope that you all enjoyed the round. Good luck with the next round. And the instructions for round 3 will be sent to the qualified participants once the results are announced. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this event.
Yeah.
Everyone except for the organizers can now leave.